So, the nature of the book of Job tends to be one that I feel gets oftentimes misconstrued a little bit in the way that it is presented. A lot of times when you hear pastors and speakers talking about the sort of elements of the book of Job and what it gets at, they rightly discern that it addresses the nature of God in relation to the age-old question, why do bad things happen to good people? However, I think a lot of times the answer that the book gives gets misrepresented. Oftentimes I've heard people characterize it as, who are you to think you're better than God that you can question God? And this feels like kind of an over-exaggeration of the real point of the book, or the real sort of final statement that it makes. Because the book doesn't tell you not to question God, it actually tells you not to accuse God of doing things wrong. You see, all throughout the book of Job, the whole plight of Job and what he's complaining about is really not that God has mistreated him, but perhaps that God made a mistake. According to Job, if he could just make his case to God, then all of this would be squared away and settled, because clearly God made a mistake here. He messed up. Job is not at fault for anything, despite what his friends seem to believe, and this is all just one big misunderstanding. What is admirable to note about Job in this moment is that he doesn't give up on God. He still believes God is faithful, but yet at the same time, he doesn't seem to grasp the idea that God is also all-knowing and therefore very, 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 very unlikely to make a mistake. And by very, 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 very unlikely, I mean he didn't make a mistake. It's supposed to happen. And we get to this element in one of the last chapters of the book. In Job chapter 40, verses 7 and 8, God says to Job, "Dress for action like a man, I will question you and you will make it known to me. Will you even put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be right?" And then he goes on through that classic list of, do you know this, do you know that? But the general point of those two phrases is, can you really say that I'm wrong? Which is the question that the entire book of Job is trying to answer. So when talking about this book, it is important to understand that we can question God. God knows he's the big man with all the answers. But it's the way in which you question him as to not insult his sense of authority or the fact that he doesn't make mistakes. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and I'll see you tomorrow.